Should they want to, cinemas are allowed to simply say no when offered the chance to screen a movie, and even though it might seem foolish to reject the very product that keeps them in business, confectionery aside, it's not uncommon for theatres to turn down films that they have some sort of problem with, and can take a firm stand against Hollywood's biggest releases at any time they choose. So I'm Gareth, this is What Culture, and here are 8 films cinemas refuse to play and why. Number 8, The Last Temptation of Christ. In the months leading up to its release, Martin Scorsese's The Last Temptation of Christ received a lot of negative attention from religious groups because of how heavily it departed from the Gospels, depicting Jesus as more of a mortal man with human wants, needs, and temptations. I mean, it's right there in the title. On opening day, there were protests in New York, Los Angeles, and other American cities, with police officers forced to keep a watchful eye out for any trouble. People waiting to see the film were even scolded by angry crowds. How dare they? And on the whole, it wasn't exactly a release that was met with a universal amount of excitement. It also wasn't a release that was viewable on a nationwide scale either, because several theatre chains, scared off by the amount of controversy surrounding the film, simply refused to book it. Chains like General Cinema and Edwards Theatres took this approach, meaning that Scorsese's epic missed out on over 3,500 extra screens. That is a lot. Sadly, this lack of available screenings bled directly into the film's box office results, and by the end of its run, it only managed to scrape together $8 million worldwide, off an estimated $7 million budget. Number 7, Unplanned. Unplanned, an anti-abortion drama, was always going to be a controversial movie, and it sure as hell had a lot of negative press directed its way in the months and weeks surrounding its early 2019 release. Several major US TV networks declined to air advertisements for the film on account of its sketchy subject matter, and the official Unplanned Twitter, or X, account was even suspended and then reinstated for reasons unknown. To top it all off, there were also issues with actually getting the movie into theaters, particularly in Canada. Cineplex, one of the country's biggest chains, initially refused to screen the film, although they claimed that this was down to distribution issues rather than the content of the movie. The company would soon play the film in 14 cinemas, although not without a lot of audience pushback, which forced them to issue a defensive statement. And even though Cineplex eventually started playing it, a lot of smaller chains did not follow suit. Numerous Canadian theatres refused to screen it altogether, while a few locations, such as Salmar Theatres in the city of Salmon-Arm, cancelled their planned screenings after staff members received death threats, and that is never okay. Number 6, Beasts of No Nation. Harrowing war drama Beasts of No Nation was boycotted by several large chains, including AMC, Regal, and Carmike, for the same reason as Martin Scorsese's The Irishman, a short theatrical window. Netflix's plan for the film was the same as the Scorsese epic. They wanted it to have a quick run in cinemas so that it would be allowed to compete during award season. However, the boycott relegated the movie to a tiny handful of theaters, something that greatly hurt its exposure, and in the end it received a grand total of 0 Oscar nominations. Though Idris Elba did win a SAG award for his performance, chains didn't want to give the film any screens because they firmly believed in the model of a 3-month theatrical window. That is, a movie comes out in cinemas, then hits home media a minimum of 90 days later. And there was a time there when films that didn't adhere to this rule would typically struggle to gain a wide theatrical release on thousands of screens. Nowadays, though, it has become the depressing norm for the likes of Warner Brothers and Disney to just chuck their movies right onto their streaming services within a month of their theatrical release. The former even dumped them on their Max streaming service on the same bloody day in 2021, something that did not go down very well with cinema lovers. Number 5, Roma. Another excellent film that most people couldn't actually see in a theater purely because it was also released on Netflix. Award season juggernaut Roma was turned down by AMC and Regal in the US for once again having a short theatrical window. While the movie did play on a couple of screens in order to secure its eligibility for the Academy Awards, and unlike Beasts of No Nation, Roma was a big hit with Oscar voters taking home a handful of statues, it did fail to secure a wide rollout. While that must have been disappointing for the filmmakers, Roma did at least tell us that great movies can still shine no matter where they're released, whether it's on a streaming platform or on cinema screens around the world. Though the latter is still surely the best way to watch them, right? Number 4. Beauty and the Beast. Disney's live-action remake of Beauty and the Beast contained the company's first ever openly gay character, LeFou, played by Josh Gad. While not a major component of the film, LeFou had one or two moments that clearly hinted at his sexuality, which was at least an attempt at a step forward for representation in movies, though star Josh Gad still later admitted it was a case of Disney not going far enough. Some were not happy about even those few moments being in the movie though. In particular, the Hennigar Drive-In Theatre in Alabama flat out refused to show the film simply because it featured a gay character. In a statement on its Facebook page, the cinema explained its controversial decision by saying that it wished to stick to the Bible's teachings. As they put it, for those that do not know, Beauty and the Beast is premiering their first homosexual character. If we cannot take our 11-year-old granddaughter and 8-year-old grandson to see a movie, we have no business watching it. I know there will be some that do not agree with this decision. That's fine. We are first and foremost Christians. We will not compromise on what the Bible teaches. As you'd expect, this stance was not received very well, and the post has since been removed, while Beauty and the Beast went on to make over $1.2 billion globally. So yeah, there's that. Number 3. Star Wars: The Last Jedi. In most cases, Star Wars movies are guaranteed box office hits, so it's pretty weird to learn that some cinemas turned down the chance of screening Star Wars: The Last Jedi, which went on to make over $1 billion worldwide. Disney is the most powerful entertainment brand on the damn planet. It knows that most cinemas pretty much rely on the likes of Star Wars, Marvel, and Pixar to stay in business, meaning that the Mouse House holds all the cards when it comes to outlining deals with movie theaters. And with The Last Jedi, the details of said deal turned a lot of small cinemas off. If a cinema wanted to screen the film, Disney was demanding a whopping 65% of all ticket revenue, one of the highest percentages a studio has ever asked for. The normal figure is closer to 55%. Cinemas were also required to put the film in their largest auditorium for at least 4 weeks. And if any of these rules were broken, the studio could enforce a 5% penalty, raising their take to a massive 70%, because Disney just really needed more money. And because of these strict terms, a lot of theaters with only one screen, like Northeast Iowa's Elkada Cinema, actually refused to play the film, because they simply could not rely on just one movie to carry them all the way through the Christmas period, which is fair enough. Number 2. Joker. Before release, there was a whole lot of conversation surrounding the violence in Joker, with some punters being concerned that it might inspire real-life terror attacks. The Los Angeles Police Department even released a statement saying that they would maintain high visibility around cinemas on opening weekend, citing the historical significance of the character on the big screen. Now, at face value, this might have seemed like a lot of fuss over nothing, and in the end it was really, since Joker came and went with no violent incidents to speak of. But there was one rather big reason why everyone was concerned about Joker, and why one Aurora theater outright refused to play it: The Dark Knight Rises. During an opening night screening of the Christian Bale-led trilogy capper in 2012, a shooter opened fire on the audience, killing 12 people and injuring a further 70. The perpetrator had dyed his hair red in a style reminiscent of the Clown Prince of Crime, and the memory of this event and its close ties to the character of the Joker was the reason why a lot of folks were so concerned about Joker's release. And completely understandably, that same Aurora Cinema where the shooting took place refused to play the movie, and even wrote a letter to the studio expressing their concerns over its violent content. Number 1. Slender Man. The trailers for Slender Man made it look like your average modern horror movie. Certainly nothing that seemed overly offensive or controversial, but the film had a dark story behind it, something that prompted a few cinemas to actually not play it. In May 2014, 2 young girls lured a third into a forest located in Waukesha, Wisconsin, where they stabbed her 19 times with a large kitchen knife. Fortunately, the girl survived the attack and returned to school a few months later, and the 2 perpetrators were then given life sentences. The perpetrators said that they carried out this horrific crime in an attempt to please Slender Man, and thought that by killing someone, they would become his servants. Now, the Slender Man isn't actually based on this event, but the fact that the title character inspired 2 teenage girls to try and murder their classmate was enough of a link between fiction and reality that 2 Wisconsin cinemas, the Avalon and the Fox Bay Cinema Grill, refused to play the Sony release entirely, feeling that it just hit a little too close to home. I can't say I disagree with that decision, and it's not like they missed out on a top-class movie either, right?